My hat!
Alright, so here on this side we have the Traxxas Slayer Pro, and over there the Revo 3.3. So as you saw, just ran them, covered in dirt. Notice the filters. That's why you always want to carry spare filters with you, because they'll be dirty after about a tank. But here we go. So if we look at the difference between the two, say you're trying to decide, it really depends. It's up to you. If you really like short course, well, get the Slayer Pro. If you really like monster trucks, get the Revo 3.3. Now, if you're not particular to either short course or monster truck, then there's going to be other things to keep in mind. Now, very first thing is the chassis are exactly the same. Suspension, when it comes to the shocks, that's going to be the same. So they're going to have the same suspension when it comes to that. The difference really when it comes to the suspension is going to be in the arms. And because that one's a monster truck, it has much, much longer arms, as you can see them side by side, which is going to affect the handling a lot. As you saw in the videos, just running them in circles, for example, or taking little bumps, Revo does a lot better in soaking up those bumps, and it's more controlled versus the Slayer Pro. And that has to do with the suspension. Now, yes, I just said the shocks are the same, right? So you could tune them, they're very similar, right? Because the chassis are the same. But the difference is the arms and the rods. That suspension rod right over here is much longer right over here compared to this arm over here, which is a lot shorter. So if you look at these bricks are the exact same size, right? But if you look at the amount the suspension has to work to absorb something this size is a lot. So if we look up here, see how much that shock is compressed right there? It's compressed quite a lot compared to this one right over here, which can still be compressed more. So we haven't actually gone the full length there of the shock. Now I'm going to flip the brick over, so now it's going to be a lot taller, and just so you can see the difference, so that's quite a difference in height, right, between the two bricks. I guess I could have measured, but I mean, I think my nail is about 1 inch. If you look at that, I mean, that's probably about 1.5. If we look at the suspension again on the top, right, it's still compressed a little less than this one over here, right over here. And that's going to make the difference. That's what makes the difference in soaking the bumps. So the Revo is definitely, if you're going to be bashing and you're going to be driving on very bumpy terrain, Revo is a better vehicle. Now, if you're going to be running on higher traction surface, Revo is a better vehicle because it's wider. It can take turns a lot better. On the Slayer Pro, you will have to install the sway bar kit, which will involve drilling in here, so you can install the sway bars, and then in the rear as well. But keep in mind that if you can add sway bars to this one, you can add sway bars to this one as well. So you would be improving the handling of both of them. Now, if you look at both of them from the front, you're going to see how the suspension is on both of them. Notice the Revo, the angle that it is in versus this angle, right? These angles are very similar, but the height is much greater on this one. If I lower the brick again, right, notice how the angle has now decreased significantly right here if you just pay attention to that versus this. So that's going to affect the handling and the characteristics. That's the reason why this one wants to roll over a lot more than the Revo. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if I have them side by side and I just hold the two tires, so I'm just going to lift those two tires in the middle, and you're going to see the difference. And I'm going to start lifting them until this one wants to come off. Well, that's pretty much it. yeah, I guess the brick is pretty much your measurement. This one, right, there's the brick, and I can still lift higher than the brick. So just out of curiosity, I'm wondering if I can do 2 bricks, and I can almost do 2 bricks halfway into the tire over here. If I go all the way in, then that tire will come off. Well, I guess it's, yeah, no, that'll come off. So it's just less than 2 bricks worth. And again, these bricks are quite large. I mean, you can use my thumbs as reference. I do have fat thumbs though, but keep that in mind. But that's going to be the difference between this one and this one when it comes to handling. Wheelbase, you have the same. It's just going to be the angle of the suspension when compressed. So just remember, because you have a longer arm, so if we go from the fulcrum all the way to the end, versus a shorter arm, the shorter arm is going to experience a greater angle for the same size bump, say a brick, versus this one. This one's going to experience a smaller angle, and that's going to make the difference. If I were to place this, well, see, that one's kind of in the way, but if I were to place the brick maybe here, nope, can't really work. Anyway, the point is, both of the vehicles are great vehicles. If it's within your budget, they're both fun to drive, buy them both. If you have to select one versus the other, if you're particular to short course, get this one. If you're particular to monster trucks, get that one. Or if you just want to see which one's the better handling vehicle, it's by far the Revo, and it's because of the longer arms and the suspension. So if you're looking for something that you can run, bash, jump, and drive, this one's a much better handling vehicle. The other thing too is when you're driving on grass, this one has higher clearance. This one bogs down. You can't really run this one on grass unless you want to destroy either your clutch or your slipper clutch. That one can handle grass, well, up to a certain height. So those are things to consider. If you're running on pavement, you're going to run into the problem of traction. This one's going to roll over a lot more. If you're running on loose dirt with bumps, this one's going to roll over more. This one's going to absorb them better. So other than that, I'm not trying to convince you to buy the Revo. I obviously have them both. They're both really fun vehicles. But just keep that in mind. Slayer Pro, you're pretty much going to be driving on a straight line, slowing down and taking a turn, or taking really wide turns, unless you want to add the sway bars, which I don't feel like drilling because, well, it does weaken these components right in here. Those tend to break. That's the reason why. The other thing too is because I like bashing bumpy roads, I like the way it handles without the sway bars. So other than that, I hope this is useful. That's the comparison between the two. Oh, and once in a while, reverse is nice. You don't need it. A lot of people will say, well, just don't crash. Well, guess what? You're gonna crash from time to time. So reverse is kind of nice. That's one of the things I liked about the Revo. But other than that, you know, pick whichever one you want. It's your money. Do as you please.
What? Oh, my hair! My arm! My rod!